You're about to embark on a journey that could forever change how you see betrayal. Have you ever considered that betrayal doesn't just hurt hearts, but leaves deep spiritual scars that stick with the soul across many lifetimes? That's a shocking truth, rarely talked about, but revealed in the psychic readings of the legendary Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet for his incredible 14,000 documented psychic consultations. Before we go on, I'm asking you, if you've ever felt the pain of betrayal, or know someone who has, hit like now, subscribe and ring the bell, because in the next few lines, we're going to uncover 3 impactful discoveries from Cayce about adultery that you've never heard in common relationship advice. The promise is revelations that can change your perspective on life, this delicate topic, and even bring powerful tools for healing and spiritual growth. Imagine this question. Do you think betrayal only hurts feelings? It's a question that shakes our certainties. Most people think betrayal only affects emotions, a broken heart, shattered trust, but Cayce invites us to look far beyond that. In his readings, he revealed that betrayal creates deep spiritual wounds, almost like invisible scars in the fabric of the soul, that go beyond this life and extend into other incarnations. These spiritual marks have the power to influence our behavior, our relationships, and most importantly, what we carry forward to live in other lives. We're not just talking about very distant or abstract consequences. These marks can point to karmic patterns, repetitive cycles of suffering that show up as turbulent relationships and painful choices, which you might be experiencing now without understanding why. And what's more, there's hope. Cayce also outlined paths to deep healing that aren't just superficial regrets, but real spiritual processes that can free the soul from these ties. In this video, we'll unravel together 3 impactful truths drawn from Edgar Cayce's readings on adultery, all interconnected and allowing for a new understanding of the phenomenon. First, we'll understand how adultery leaves such deep karmic marks that cry out to be recognized and worked through. Then, we'll explore the concept of energetic cords, invisible spiritual ties that entangle souls in repetitive cycles of attraction and suffering, the feeling that something holds us back, even when the pain keeps repeating. Finally, we'll bring to light the path of healing based on spiritual practices proposed by Cayce that challenge our rational view and invite us to a rebirth of authentic love. To keep the suspense and engagement, we'll intersperse these discoveries with true stories and real-life examples taken from Cayce's files that seem like something out of a movie, but are documented facts. Get ready to question beliefs, spark curiosity, and perhaps see yourself reflected in aspects you never imagined were part of a bigger journey. Who was Edgar Cayce? Born in the late 19th century, Cayce became a unique figure in spiritual history. For decades, he entered a trance state to answer questions, ranging from medical diagnoses to deep spiritual matters. What sets his readings apart is the impressive volume over 14,000 documented consultations, and the coherence of the spiritual answers that point to an integrative view of the soul and its journey. According to Cayce, adultery isn't just a past, isolated emotional event, but a phenomenon charged with deep, energetic implications. What many don't know is that infidelity leaves imprints on the soul's energetic structure, called karmic marks, which can create blockages and wounds that cross not just one life, but multiple incarnations. These spiritual wounds explain why certain people seem trapped in endless cycles of betrayal and pain. Often, what they're experiencing today is the unconscious repetition of something unresolved in past lives. While modern advice focuses on reciprocal emotional damage and rebuilding trust, Cayce proposes a broader view. Infidelity leaves an energetic trail that demands a healing process involving the soul and its evolution. This vision opens doors for us to understand not only the suffering, but the evolutionary mission behind it. A striking example that emerges from Cayce's archives is the story of a successful businessman who, despite all his efforts, kept facing a repetitive pattern of inexplicable separations and betrayals in his relationships. Intrigued and desperate, he sought Cayce's readings and discovered that these difficulties were the direct result of actions from past lives. In a previous incarnation, that man had deeply and repeatedly betrayed his wife, creating karmic marks that, in future lives, forced them to revisit these themes for learning and reparation. This revelation offers powerful emotional identification, as many of us have felt trapped in tragic destinies that we can't change. The idea that these patterns can be traced and understood beyond the physical plane meets the universal search for meaning and hope, making present pain no longer seem like an unexplained fatality. By facing these karmic marks, the possibility arises to break the cycle and give new meaning to relationships, transforming the wound into a gateway for growth and evolution. Have you ever felt that an emotional bond ties you to someone in an almost inexplicable way? As if there's an invisible thread connecting you to that person, crossing time and space, and it's impossible to break free. Edgar Cayce, in his psychic readings, introduces us to a fascinating concept that can explain this experience, that of energetic cords. Imagine that each soul, when connecting deeply and emotionally with another, creates subtle energetic ties that go far beyond what we can perceive with our physical senses. These ties are the energetic cords, invisible channels that transport emotions, thoughts, and vibrational energies between people. In the context of adultery, these cords gain an even more complex and charged dimension. When the betrayed person and the adulterer maintain this bond, a kind of energetic entanglement happens that repeats in other lives, creating vicious cycles that seem to hypnotize the souls of these two people. For example, a woman might feel a magnetic and irresistible attraction to the same man, even repeatedly facing suffering and betrayal. Cayce explains that these cords, when linked by unbalanced relationships marked by betrayal, function as spiritual shackles that make detachment and growth difficult. They're like invisible knots that weigh on the heart and soul, responsible for conflicting feelings like deep love and intense suffering at the same time. This theory not only sheds light on common experiences of repetitive attraction and destructive patterns, but also makes us question the hidden power of energetic connections in our daily lives. How many times have you wanted to break free from someone, but something seemed to keep you trapped without a rational explanation? What if this invisible chain is one of these energetic cords that needs to be broken for your spiritual balance? But what's the price of this connection? What are the consequences for the soul's ability to continue evolving? The spiritual wound caused by betrayal isn't limited to momentary pain or trauma. It can literally harden the soul. Cayce warned of the danger of what he called spiritual blockage or emotional congestion, a state in which the soul becomes increasingly incapable of feeling genuine love. Think of the healing process when a wound closes, but a rigid scar remains that limits movements and sensations. That's the effect of unaddressed infidelity on the soul. It can generate a kind of emotional hardening that leads the person to be less able to trust, to surrender, and to experience true love, not the unhealthy, dependent, or possessive kind, but unconditional love, freedom to be and receive. There are documented reports in Cayce's readings where individuals showed emotional and spiritual symptoms precisely related to this blockage. Thus, adultery, besides breaking physical relationships, can slow down the process of spiritual awakening, hindering the path to emotional and existential fullness. This loss of the capacity to love genuinely is perhaps one of the most serious and silent consequences of karmic betrayal, because it isn't easily perceived. The person might even have multiple relationships, but a persistent feeling of emptiness and disconnection can indicate that something deeper is happening. Moreover, this difficulty can manifest in other areas of life, like a feeling of stagnation or lack of purpose, reinforcing the idea that these are souls seeking healing and transformation. So how do you break free from this cycle? What's the path to recovering love and inner light? The answer lies in a healing process that Cayce suggests and that goes far beyond traditional superficial solutions. The path to freeing the soul from the weight of betrayal involves three fundamental, interconnected steps to promote a deep internal renewal. Sincere confession. It's not enough to just feel guilty or regret the mistake. An honest and vulnerable commitment to oneself and those involved about the failures committed is necessary. This confession isn't to cause more pain, but to bring awareness of the action to light, because only with full acceptance can we begin to unbind the karmic ties. This recognition is the starting point for transformation. Temporary celibacy. Cayce proposes a period of sexual abstinence, not as punishment, but as a form of purification and recovery of spiritual energy. This pause creates space for the body, mind, and soul to rebalance, preventing new connections from carrying old negative energies. Temporary celibacy acts as a sacred pause, allowing the person's true essence to manifest free from turbulent emotions and dependencies. Active service. The third and perhaps most powerful step is engagement in service to others. The altruistic act of helping, caring, and contributing to the collective good activates the highest spiritual frequencies and opens channels for the healing of internal wounds. Through service, the soul finds purpose and begins to dissolve the ego that feeds the cycle of pain, replacing it with a genuine connection to universal love. These steps, when practiced with discipline and faith, create a profound transformation, allowing the person to break repetitive patterns and emphasize the rebirth of true love. But from this journey emerge not only healed individuals, also arise souls capable of guiding others, spiritual healers who carry within them the wisdom gained through lived and overcome pain. To surrender to this path means accepting that healing is a continuous process, where each step taken strengthens the soul and reorients it towards the light. Want to know how all this connects to a greater life purpose and soul growth? Let's see. Have you ever stopped to think that relationships, even the most complicated and painful ones, aren't random events, but part of a soul's grand evolutionary plan? Edgar Cayce invites us to see adultery from a transformative perspective. It can be an essential component in the journey of learning and spiritual growth for those who experience it. According to Cayce, before we reincarnate, we make what he called a soul contract, a kind of silent agreement between souls who will meet in this life to fulfill specific missions. These contracts involve challenges, tests, and opportunities for mutual improvement. When betrayal happens, it's often not mere chance or an isolated mistake, but an aspect of the evolutionary test designed to awaken important lessons. Adultery exposes deep wounds, provokes intense confrontations with the ego, pride, insecurity, and, above all, with the true meaning of love and detachment. A touching example recorded in Cayce's readings involves two partners who, across multiple lives, played with the limits of fidelity causing suffering, but also being forced to face fears and internal shadows. By recognizing these cycles, they were able to transform the relationship into a space of forgiveness and expansion. Thus, adultery can act as a spiritual alarm clock, a painful yet necessary opportunity for souls to transcend harmful patterns and move towards a more mature and compassionate love. It's not a justification for the pain, but an invitation to see beyond it. This reading opens doors to a new way of dealing with crises, not by fleeing or denying the depth of the problem, but by recognizing that even in pain, growth and evolution are possible. That's why many who go through this ordeal can become agents of light and transformation, not just for themselves, but for entire families and communities. When we stop to reflect on the suffering caused by betrayal, it's common to ask ourselves, why did this have to happen to me? What's the point of so much pain? This is, perhaps, the deepest question the human soul asks itself in the face of life's trials. Cayce offers us an answer that can completely transform our perspective. The pain of adultery isn't a punishment, but a spiritual opportunity to learn about detachment, forgiveness, and unconditional love. These are some of the most difficult and most precious lessons for the soul's growth. Pain makes us confront our own limits, fears, insecurities, and prejudices. It forces us to question beliefs and seek answers that go beyond the surface. When forgiveness genuinely emerges, it becomes a powerful instrument of liberation, not for those who hurt us, but for ourselves, freeing us from the prison of resentment. Moreover, overcoming betrayal implies learning to love, not in the possessive or conditional sense, but in the love that accepts imperfection and recognizes the spiritual interconnection between all beings. This public display of unconditional love is one of the greatest keys to evolution. Real stories from Cayce's readings illustrate people who, after going through the pain of infidelity, transcended their scars to become healers and guides, helping others find hope and reconstruction. In one of these stories, a woman who suffered deep betrayal used her experience to become a spiritual therapist, transforming her pain into a channel to help thousands of people heal their wounds. It's this transformation, this movement from darkness to light, that represents the greater meaning of pain on the soul's path. The journey through pain, therefore, becomes a journey through the revelation of our unique capacity to reinvent ourselves and flourish. We've reached the end of this journey, but this is where your most powerful beginning starts. Remember, no pain is useless. Every wound carries within it the seed of a deep transformation. If you feel that betrayal has left scars on your soul, know that this is also an opportunity to release these ties and flourish. I want to invite you to reflect. What's your story? What has this pain shown you? How can you transform this experience into a step towards your spiritual and emotional evolution? Leave your answer in the comments. Your participation here can help other people going through the same struggle, creating a network of support and light. If this video touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to receive content that promotes this collective awakening. We're living in an era where awareness of our bonds and wounds is growing. Overcoming these trials leads us to more authentic relationships, founded on true love, compassion, and freedom. You are a fundamental part of this evolutionary movement. By choosing to walk this healing process, you're not just saving your soul, you're shining a light that can illuminate the journey of many. Thank you for being here, for opening yourself to these revelations, and for being an agent of change. The future is in our hands, and it can be lighter, more loving, and more fulfilling.